Welcome back to Build Beyond with TecTon podcast. In today's episode, we're going to go over the power of behind the scenes decision makers. And I'll start it off by saying this. One of the biggest things that you want is the ability to say, I'm going to have to check with so and so. When a customer puts you on the spot, you're in a hurry to try to make a decision big time. You know, it's like you go frantic, especially if you're the one decision maker. You go really frantic, like, what am I going to tell them? But if you'll use someone else, a key decision maker in the business, in your own head as someone that you want to check with about that subject, then you can simply say, hey, I'm going to check with so-and-so. I need to run this by him. And we'll get back with you.
And then it gives you a second chance to think about it.
Exactly. It gets you off the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then you can rationally make a decision.
Super. Like that has gotten me out of so many just frustrating on the spot overreactions.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
What do you think of that, Bert?
I definitely have. I've used it since I got here. I haven't used it that much in previous business, but it's very powerful, and it has more value than just, even if you're actually going to go talk to one of your business partners about this thing that you need a little time to think about. It still has sometimes then it brings in other people's perspective, and then you have a great solution, but it buys time just right off the onset and allows you time to think about it. I love it.
That's something that I've recently learned, and it about cost us $70,000.
Yeah, it was a $70,000 change order that we wanted, but it was potentially going to cost us $250,000.
Yeah, about dug us a hole
with how deep that was going to go.
So, I think that it's a damn good way to just stop and think. If that's what you need to do, use it. But usually, you are going back to your partners and asking them questions and seeing what their feelings on it is.
Yeah, when I first started and I was getting into these, when you're in small residential, when it's $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 jobs, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's a pretty easy. Change orders become hundreds of dollars instead of tens of thousands of dollars. And so, but when I started getting into commercial, I had Whit Roundy as the CFO and working in as partner. And the power to say I need to check with my partner was just so powerful. Like to say when people think you're the decision maker and you come back with I need to check with my partners, like it really puts you on the offense. It puts them looking up at you saying, okay, well, I'll wait to hear back from you. And they're anxious to hear from you.
It allows them time to think about what they're asking of as well. It allows them time to reflect on maybe their what they're asking you to do, like in the scenario down in California. Mm-hmm. You put the question back, we don't see that it's our responsibility to do this, and gives them time to go defend themselves.
Yeah.
And come back with something. Maybe it's irrefutable and we are wrong, but we didn't say we weren't.
Yep.
We said, we're looking into this and it looks like we need some time to decide and make a decision.
90% of my bad decisions were made on the spot without thinking about it.
Mine
or
too.
having time.
Mine too.
Yeah, and
that's
true.
I would say there's so many little words that create that will change the whole perspective of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Like saying we don't believe X or we don't think X versus I.
Yeah.
You know, it's really powerful. Little words like that mean a lot, and they will sway the conversation in a whole different direction, most of the time in your direction. Yeah. And as subcontractors, we really fucking need people to have confidence in us if we're going to take power. The only way you take that is to create a bigger vision than that customer or that other subcontractor or that general contractor or that PM, whatever, has about us. You come in as a single owner, they're going to know they can run you over. You come in as a team, they're totally going to give you 1,000 times more attention.
Yep.
I think one of the reasons why I wanted partners is for that very reason. Like the power of partnership. It's not about how can you do this, it's about who you got.
Yep. And it gives you a chance to focus on life too. You know, you don't have to spend all your time to grow a successful business, because you can rely on your partners to help you out.
Yeah.
And you can focus on your families and
you bring up family and business, and that's going down a whole nother rabbit hole. Family and business is, I would argue, all businesses are family, aren't they? Tell me when your bank account in your business or what you were getting paid by that business didn't directly affect your family.
I think that's easier for somebody that owns a business and has family in it to understand. Every family is like a family business, but that is true. Like if you have a family and you own a business, that definitely affects your family.
Here, owners in a business, so it applies to all of us, and how important it is. I think it's super important, and I fail a lot thinking that I don't need to go home and just talk about it. I don't believe in the myth of no business at home. I don't believe that. I was just in a boot camp a couple weeks ago that tried to preach that, and I'm just like, you're setting yourself up for so much drama unless your business is doing so good you don't care. That is the only time no business at home is worth doing, that philosophy.
Just because for a successful business, like at some point in that business's growth, then somebody spent 24/7 growing that business. It was their baby, or else it wouldn't have grown.
Yeah. And
if you're okay with a dead end job with a certain wage, you can go home and not think about how to improve, how to be better, to move up in a company, or if you want to create something for yourself, period, whether you're a business owner or a great employee that does great in a business, it's naive to think that you can just shut it off.
Yeah, and I wouldn't like to anyway, because what about the example you're setting to your family, your kids? Like, don't we want our kids to grow up learning the perspective of work? There's two ways. Surround them with example of people working, or make them work.
Yeah. And I believe while there is a balance, that's my favorite thing about working even from home and working in front of my family is just that, the example, the work ethic, and shows them that, we don't have a roof over our head just by circumstance. It takes an effort.
Yeah. I with how much family, I think family has so much to do with the business that if you thought back on it, and this goes both ways, if you're having a fight with your wife or with a kid, you will find every problem that day at work you possibly can. It's just something that happens. if you're in that spirit, you're going to come to work and find every problem.
Or that works the other way too. If you're struggling at home or at work, then you're going to go home and find every little thing that just pissing you off at home. And I've been on both sides of that spectrum, and neither one's that pleasant.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah.
It goes pretty deep, and especially for business owners, because business owners, they're dedicated to what they're doing. If you weren't, you wouldn't be a business owner. You know, you have to be dedicated to whatever you're doing, regardless if that's raising a family, building a business, nurturing relationships, whether it be customers, partnerships, kids, everything. It's all nurturing the relationship, and how you do it is how you're going to do it both ways. I would love nothing more than for my kids to start talking to their friends like it's a fucking business, because they heard me do it all the time. You know, I mean, that would just be that would be the best.
So you're saying that if you're going to succeed at one, then you're going to succeed at the other?
Well, just like partnerships. That's a great point.
I don't believe that.
Oh, no,
you can excel at one and fail very hardly at the other one.
Well, what are the who? That goes back to who. Not about how you failed, it's about who you failed. It's like, and you can fail in business in multiple different ways. And you can fail
be a great
in
family
marriage
man.
and family. No, not necessarily, because
Yes, you can.
well, it comes back to who. Who did you fail? Like, if you failed your partners in business.
So at the end of the day, you only fail when you stop. So of course, you know, you're a quitter. Like, I get the whole narrative. You're a quitter. You're not going to succeed in being a good person and being a good family man, good dad. But like, you can have something you're trying to create and do fall out from under you and no longer exist or whatever, and be a great dad. And then most billionaires we know have been through multiple wives and ain't very good family men. Like, I'm talking about your billionaires. Like,
So are you saying that if you try and have balance, you're only capping one or the other of greatness?
no, I'm saying that you.
Well, he
I
asked
am
the
saying
question.
that you don't have to be successful at one. You got, you know, it's just almost like they go hand in hand. I'm saying that's not the case.
Well, let me ask you this.
It takes a better person.
If you had a perfect match in your family, in your partner, in your wife, okay, and don't think the perfect match is going to last forever. That's not what I'm saying. But let's say over the span of 2 years, you had a perfect match in your wife, and you had a perfect match in your business partners. Wouldn't you say they're both going to be successful?
No, yeah,
It's a perfect
absolutely.
match. Now,
You
on the
can
other
have-
hand, if you had a shitty match in your business partnership and a perfect match in your family, your wife, one's going to be successful and the other's not. So it's about who you partner up with. It's about who your match is. That's gonna decide that.
That's
factor.
gonna help
It's
decide.
Not,
Yeah.
It's not how your character is.
Yeah, but your
It's
character
a no, but you
your
can take
character will cultivate success in both. It can.
Well, depending on the other
take
person.
a great match and make it sour. Just how you end up dealing with different scenarios and situations on one side over here. You know, there's some trials that you have to deal with, so it affects this much, and so it turns that situation sour. But
Well, there's variables in every situation we find
Absolutely.
ourselves in, and we're not
Absolutely.
always in control of the variables. But how we control each variable in in family and business, I would argue, will be by the same principles.
But yeah. But it's the person as much as it is the partner or the wife. It's the one in between just as much. That's my point. Like, you got to be a big man to not let what's happening here affect what's happening here.
Well, why would someone be in between you and your partner?
Or a big person.
You might have kids, and those kids might
Why
actually
would
affect your relationship.
You wouldn't have somebody in between you and your partner. But what's happening with your family, your immediate family, your wife, your children, whatever, if something happens and it's a big deal, you know, you don't let it affect this to create this wedge between either your partners or your wife. Now, obviously, it flip-flops.
So
that's my point. It's about the person that's handling the situations on both sides as much as the perfect partners and the wife and the partners.
Yeah.
It's about that person too.
I have in my Vistage group, it's a CEO group that I meet with each month in Vegas, just for the listeners there. One of the gentlemen there, he's a fund manager, private equity manager, and his kids were in the motocross. Doing super well. He was going all over the country doing it, and he wrecked up in Oregon, and put him unconscious for months, and fighting it all. And obviously that's gonna affect business, right? And that's the whole point of telling the story, is that is going to turn him upside down. Well, luckily he believes in partnerships, and so he had a partner that would take over for him at the business while he dealt with that family deal. And it was a huge deal. And one of the questions that was brought up by our Vistage chairman was, what if the roles were reversed, Francis? Would you put your family on a little bit of a pause and let your wife take control over that if your company was going through a dire situation? And he thought about it for like 2 seconds, and he's like, absolutely, I would. So that just really proves they're equal.
Well,
They're really equal.
You said something earlier, like you have to actually have a balance here. Me and my wife both read a book that's called 80-80. Obviously, we know 80-20 is 100%, but it's talking about percentages of what you give. And in that book, then it kind of gave you like a graph. If you want to be really super successful, you're going to give all your time to this one thing that you want to be really good at, whether that's family, whether it's business, whether it's sports, whatever you want to be really good at, you're going to give it that focus. And at some point you have to say, okay, what is the most important thing to me? And that is going to take the majority of your time and thoughts, regardless of whether you want it to show or not. You're really going to put your focus on that. This man shows them equally. I would have to say, because I feel like you're not a failure until you fail at home. You can fail at 10 or 15 different businesses learning what not to do the next time. But like at home, I feel like you fail at home, then you maybe could get down on yourself as a failure.
This reminds me of something that I heard about 20 years ago. Take a wagon wheel, put the spokes, and put family, business, health, religion, and all those spokes, number them from the hub out to the outer of the wheel from 1 to 5, and then draw a circle hitting the number that you feel like where you're at in each category, and then try and roll that wheel down the road.
See if it was lopsided.
That's what I was saying.
That's gonna be a bumpy ride. But imagine if each one of those numbers were the same.
Exactly. Then you got a smooth
so
sailing.
I want to talk a little bit about Bert's.
But what if it's only a 1? Then it's a tiny ass wheel and it
wheel.
ain't
Then
going nowhere.
Yeah, you're sitting in one fucking spot, not going anywhere. I want to talk about Bert's point about as long as you don't fail at home. How can you run a failing business?
How could you run a failing business?
And be totally successful at home? I don't believe you can.
I think that I filed bankruptcy and my marriage was just fine.
Well, I knew you were going to bring that up.
Okay, so you have a defense.
Yeah, I have a
that
defense
is how,
on that.
like, you just, like, the market stops. You weren't prepared for it. You was a beginner. Like, you bought too many pieces of equipment. Like, you just closed the business. I don't see that as a failure. I seen it as a learning curve.
Okay, exactly. So that was my. That's
but you don't
exactly
fail at business.
Yeah, but
that's
a
to my
failing
point,
business.
though. You don't fail at business. I didn't fail at home. I still was
it's a failing
intact.
business.
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
still
saying
working.
it is fallen, but it's a failing
working.
business.
It's a
And that
failure in
was-
business. Hey, and let me ask you this: that you filed bankruptcy. Obviously, we can put it on. We can put it on the market. We can put it that there was your overhead was too big, which is you had too much equipment, et cetera, et cetera. But that was a result of one little decision, or multiple little decisions. A little bit oblivious to what the market was going. Now, let me ask you this: you say home was fine, home's everything, but didn't you have bumps and rides at home?
Oh, all the time.
Okay,
I still have them at home.
See, and that's what I'm saying.
But I'm still working at it. I didn't file bankruptcy yet. We tried to once.
Probably
Didn't file bankruptcy.
you undid your argument.
I didn't file bankruptcy on my wife.
I've filed
we thought about it
bankruptcy, but then
once.
went and got the same loan.
Anyway, so I'm just saying, like, you're going to see the small decisions is what brought you to filing bankruptcy. And the small decisions are what made you almost come to divorce.
But wouldn't
But
it
you
make
didn't
sense
give
that
up.
I seen which one's most important to me, obviously, is the family one because, there
Well-
was an opportunity to give up, but I wouldn't, and I hung on. I could have done that with that business. When I look back, I gave up because I didn't know where to go. I wasn't experienced. I
wouldn't say you gave up. You put a pause. Like you put.
Well,
a
I gave up
pause.
on that business because it was tainted anyway in my feelings.
Well, yeah.
So I didn't even try.
Right, but that's
So-
not a failure. That's just a bump along.
Yeah, that's why
along your business life.
Experience. Yeah,
Experience.
exactly. I
It
don't
was
see it as a
chapter
failure.
11. Like it didn't fail the second you signed those bankruptcy papers. You chose to close it after that, but wasn't it chapter 11?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
chapter 11. Like I was just business stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, Unit, they filed chapter 11 while I was still working and we
Never
kept on
missed a beat.
trucking.
Yeah.
I mean, in my world, they never missed a beat. We
Yeah.
kept on trucking. They were down in the dirt though.
To
but-
our listeners, he's talking about the oil field. One of the companies he was working for filed bankruptcy while he was working chapter 11, and that's why he's recollecting. It's not a failure. It's a simple bump in the road that you have to cross.
Right, like, I mean, for some people, really got screwed out of their retirements. So, I mean, it's hurtful.
Yeah,
But, I mean, as the owner and stuff, like, you do it last resort to save the company. Save the company. You don't do it to get rid of the company typically. But you chose to close Vertex's doors at that point and open up something that grew way bigger and better.
yeah.
Down the road.
Yeah.
I would say, I think it's just as simple as that. Like the principles that you make a decision in business are the same principles, just different subjects applied to the same principles.
Well, you're still using the same mechanism.
Yep.
In both your life,
And that's
and
why
business,
every
so
business
I agree with that.
is a family business. How can it not be?
And it brings us back to the first topic.
Well, of course.
But when you tie it in like that, then you would just have to. We could dig into it more, but every business should be a family business because I mean I love being around family. I love most of my family.
You know what
And I
everybody's
like
going to
this.
say.
There's a lot of successful people that have never strove to be family men. Like,
Yeah, what
But
do they
maybe
gotta
it's
live
because they
for?
never seen the value or felt
So,
the love
yeah, I
like
mean,
of family.
I'm
'cause-
not
every
saying
business is a family business, but obviously in our world, every business is a family business because that's the way that we tick. I mean, we're all family.
Yeah,
men.
we're not
all-
remotely saying to be successful in business, you got to go get
Yeah.
a family. We're not necessarily saying that. Let's say how you deal with if you're a single man or single woman out there making it go in business, being successful. Your family may be the local bar. How you react with that local bar? Do they like you? Well, it's gonna the reason why they like you is going to be the same reason why your customers like you in business. Whatever the case is, family is the definition of family could be anything outside of business. Honestly, But I think that everybody's going to look at us and say, you're all family business. You're brothers. You're 4 partners in the company. You're all, how many times?
There, I just fixed the topic. It's family and business because you just tied them together in a really proper way. Because to be successful in Bill's business, then you've got to create a family within that business. Yeah. We might all be family, but it is like if without some sort of a family, like caring about someone else's welfare, you couldn't have success in business. I don't think.
One of my mentors, he makes it a point, and I picked up on this. He didn't point it out. He makes it a point that he does not call his employees. He calls them members of the company. That's
this is one of the
how you create that family.
Yeah, you create that environment, and it's a lot about culture. And I'm going to address something that everybody's going to look at us as 4 brothers in partnership. How many times do you look at each one of us, whoever, whichever one? Bert, let's go to you. Do you ever look at us when we're looking at business, when we're trying to make a decision about business, when we're trying to make the business operate as smoothly as possible? Do you look at me as a brother or a partner in business?
A partner, 100%.
Like,
what do you think?
100% partner, obviously. I mean,
you the same.
I know it's.
I forget we're brothers sometimes.
Yeah, it's in our subconscious, but like when I think of you outside of business, go watch the game with you and stuff.
Kick your ass.
Like, it's not. Go watch business with brother or anything. It's like,
you mean
Nate,
football? Go watch football with a brother.
Yeah, or not? Yeah, football.
Go watch business
or a game or anything. My bad. But no, for real, it's like I know it's in the subconscious, but I don't ever think about that unless it's brought up or talked about.
I think we're together because of the value we add as a whole. And we all like, one of the biggest things that are struggling with me is as a founder, as a founding member of this partnership, is transitioning from that total freedom to do whatever the fuck I wanted to that being accountable.
Being held accountable.
Now, because of our business structure, this is a little teaser. We're going to talk about this in one of these episodes in the future on the structure of our partnership because it's really cool and unique. But they're not actually all full partners yet. They're working into it. As far as blood, it creates that blood, sweat equity. That's what it's called. Anyways, I am taking this opportunity. I have full control of the company because of the structure, right? But I am doing my best to intentionally act like you guys each have that full control that you will end up with. Because I need to work myself into that. As a founding person, I'm trying to work myself up into being fully accountable to everyone.
Yep.
Which is the very intent. I wanted partners.
Well, coming from my own business, I have to do the same too. Because this is way better and way more options, but I have to deal with that too.
Yeah. It's coming from, and I'm sure Bert deals with it too, like it just coming from a founder, the freedom of a single owner founder. It's
Bert's always held himself accountable more so than anybody, and that's not.
Yeah, but I still sought accountability because accountability was the number one reason why I partnered with another family member in a previous business, because I wanted accountability. So
who drove that?
This?
Who drove that holding you accountable? You or your partner?
Oh, me.
Yeah.
My partner never held me accountable. My partner never held me accountable over there. He wouldn't call me out on anything. So I didn't even call him out on much stuff either.
Yeah.
But there is unforeseen struggles with a new partnership. Like, you change the entire aspect. Now you don't own your own time. you're sharing the value of your time with other people.
Yeah.
And you can't just go do side jobs and feel good. I can't. I'm not going to go get a side job and feel good about it. That's stealing from my partners because I gave them part of my time. I mean, there's a line, obviously.
Right. But
in business, performing your profession.
But I would say that, like, when the business isn't requiring 100% of your time, and unfortunately right now we're slow enough that it's not, you have that freedom to do what you want. True. As long as your scope's covered. It's
True.
It's like Nephi over here. Last week was his birthday. Happy belated birthday, anyways.
Thank you.
He spent the whole week at his house. Why? Because his scope was covered. It was his birthday, and he wanted to spend that with birthday week, and he wanted to spend that with his family. But if the company needed his time, he wouldn't even have batted an eye.
I think it's a good time to point out he still took calls. He still took care of everything that came up. He did offer to come help me if I needed it, so he was still working.
Well, to be fair, we all offered that.
Yeah, I mean,
that taught me is not to tell you I was struggling.
As much
because I'm way too proud to ask for help.
I know you didn't take us up on that.
There's so many routine things that we do now. Like only being like in the position I've been in for 2 years. But if you really stop and think about the routine things that we do that pertain to the company, like none of us ever stop working. I mean, we're sleeping, and then obviously you don't get.
That's so
much.
True. That's why.
But they become routine to where it's like, shit, I've been being lazy when seriously you just help make all this money off of just these little decisions and little things that you subconsciously kind of did, so to speak.
Well, to prove your point, how often did you worry about what's going on tower before you got back on tower? Like you're working on the rigs, 12 hours on, 12 off. And you're the driller. Like, did you worry about that other driller and what happened while you was off?
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously when you're sleeping, you're not, unless you're dreaming about it.
Well, that was that's how I was too, depending on what was going on.
Yeah,
but you worried about it from
you
worried about what was going on 24 hours in front of you.
Yeah.
And then obviously you worry about all the variables that can make your life that much more miserable or help you out or help the situation out. You know, say you're going to get a bonus.
I don't want to get lost in partnership because our unique partnership and why it has worked for 2 years and why there is no reason why it won't continue to work. That's going to be a really fun full podcast.
And it'll be exciting over the years to find reasons why it might struggle. We look forward to working through.
To finish this podcast, I a little bit want to tell about our latest fight as partners.
Oh, if you want to finalize it with that, do we all get is there enough time for all of us to put our?
Yeah,
I feel like if you're going to do that, even Soup. And I just isolate Soup out, as he said the very least in the conversation. But he was still there. He still felt like the tension and everything that was going on.
Well, let me briefly go over from the start to beginning, and I'll make that quick. I know you guys don't believe I can keep a story small, but I will. So I had this idea on how we could do a little exercise, get to know each other as partners, not as brothers. We all know how each other is brothers, but how we do it as partners. And I didn't explain it well. I came out and threw numbers out that were irrelevant and caught everybody off guard. So I got a lot of kickback. And to be fair, this phone stopped charging. That phone stopped charging. And so my whole life was going to shit. My phone weren't charging. I didn't have extended warranty on it, so I couldn't get it overnighted. I was under stress. I chose to make this call while I was under stress and just started it all out wrong. I got a lot of pushback, and I was mad, and so I hung up. Well, I'm going to let these guys speak of how they felt after I was mad, but if they want to, after I hung up. But After a minute, my intent was not to ignore. My intent was to get off the phone call, gather my thoughts about me, call each one individually and say, look, this, like, and I'm over here taking notes in this very notebook. I have notes on what I did wrong what I did wrong and what I can do to avoid that getting mad on the business call. Anyways, fast forward, I talked to everyone, everything. I couldn't get over my stomach. And I was awake at 2:00 that night. I was just, something was wrong. So I just recorded a 2-minute recording explaining my apologies and not regrets, because we got somewhere from that. Like, we all pulled value from that. But I just did a little recording to all my partners about my regrets and or my apologies and just a small explanation, not any justification. And I was good after that.
Well, I think that story sums up why there is such a high percentage likelihood that this partnership will work out. And there's no reason why it shouldn't. Because even a little thing like that, there wasn't one of us and that didn't say, well, I'm sorry too, I could have done this or that. But yeah, for me, my story is a little bit like Nate's, where I was dealing with some stuff on job sites and stuff, and kind of multifaceted in different aspects of the business that I tend to inside of TecTon. So I was actually in the backhoe pushing snow at my own house. This was a Friday, and I made a smart aleck remark, and it was it had to do with well, we ought to put our nose to the grindstone, so to speak. We ought to work and not be fancy vacations with all these exercises and stuff. So I made a remark like that due to how my day had gone and whatnot. So we all have, like, it goes back to family and business. It's like what we're going through greatly impacts down to the very conversation you're trying to have.
Yeah, my night, and not take from anybody's time, we can go over an hour, who cares? Everybody's enjoying this anyway. My night was miserable at home because of that gut feeling, that grind I had in my gut. Like, I ended up spending a lot of the time out by myself in the hot tub, because I couldn't feel good about, I just wanted to fight with, I didn't want to really just spend time with the kids, because I don't want my kids seeing that weirdness. And my wife, she understood. I told her, hey, I had a fight with the partners. I'm trying to gather myself up. So I'm a little bit absent-minded tonight. So I made that communication when I got home. So, and she was super, super cool. That's why Anyway, so you tell your part, Nephi.
My part is that it wasn't a fight. It didn't warrant the reaction it got. But as Bert alluded to,
your mindset, but to mine, when something is wrong,
my part, not your part.
I take full responsibility.
Yeah. And but to both of you guys' point, like, that's how we know this is gonna work. Because you, after the reaction was over, everything, like, and this, to everybody that cares, was not about anything big or anything, like, but to you guys' point, like, you made a point to reach out and tell us what you feel like you did wrong, and we told you what we did wrong, how we could have handled the situation better, and in that we're all like that, and I'm really excited to have more of these situations where we grow and learn off of. But yeah, to me, then I got cut up on a relevant number. So, I mean, that was my part of it.
Yeah. And that number shouldn't have been in the damn conversation. That was my problem. So, but what do you say, Lee?
To me, not not out of disrespect, but I got off the phone and I laughed a little bit.
Well, to be fair, you were having a great day shopping with your old lady. You were having a great day. Your mind.
No, I hate shopping. That was not a great day.
What about with your old lady?
It threw a wrench.
Being with the old lady is always fun. But what I seen was through every adversity is an opportunity to improve your skills. And that was a little bit of adversity. And
it was.
Yep. And Nate just proved that he used it to try and improve his skills because he took notes. He called each one of us.
Absolutely.
And individually. When Nate got off the phone, the three of us were like, no, we lost him.
Yep.
We didn't. Like, I refused to believe. And then one of us was like, no, I think he was upset.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if that's the case, this conversation's over because we're not going to talk without him.
Right.
Yeah. And none of us were mad at each other.
Yeah.
So that's further proof that we got a good opportunity here to make this work. We all care.
Yeah.
We all care about what we're saying behind, in front of, or on the side of each one of us. And it's important to us. And that proves it. So we got so much good out of that dumb little fight already. Yeah. We're getting miles out of it in a podcast.
How many times do you ignore a phone call or maybe you guys don't do it much, but I can recollect. And then you put the blame on, oh, my kid came up, I need to jump off, or something came up, or like I couldn't answer you. You know, never. You're not human at all.
I don't.
I do all the time.
So after I hung up,
I only do when I'm on with
Never
soup
was
from
the
now
best. I'm be leaving some messages on your phone.
So after I hung up, I was not going to add any to that conversation. Looking back on it, I should have said, well, guys, no disrespect, but I got to get off the phone call. Instead, I hung up. One of the big lessons I learned is communicate just a little bit. Being mad ain't a problem. That thought came to mind barely. Being mad is not a problem. It's how you overcome being mad that makes or break you. But behind the scenes on that, I hung up and I'm fuming. I come in, put my head on the desk, and I'm just like, should I call back and made the excuse my phone died? I mean, I'm sitting there really embarrassed about.
Now I get your question. There is a time or two that I've said my phone's gonna die.
I'm embarrassed. That was disrespectful to my partners.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm just like, no. Use this moment to see what went wrong, because honestly, that was one of the first in my recollection, and from my standpoint, I know Nephi and Soup didn't feel this way, but Bert and I felt like that was a fight.
Only because I admitted that there was a jab in my initial comment, and there was a jab.
Yeah. So like there was that fight. That by the way, in 2 years was one of the first. It was the first time I actually got upset at my partners. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I was going to mention that you've never raised your voice because you were mad. You didn't raise your voice in that phone call, and we even didn't realize. Wait, was he mad?
See, in my mind, we've had bigger disputes
I felt
than
the
that.
tension through the phone.
Yeah,
because it was.
Well, I felt tension,
disputes
but
aren't
I
bad.
felt that same tension.
Yeah, right.
Before.
Disputes aren't bad.
Yeah.
And I actually love disputes because out of disputes comes perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Bomb right there.
Wow.
Just solved life's mystery.
Yes. You follow that one thing. Out of disputes comes perfection.
Only if you do it right. Like you have to take steps to make that dispute valuable.
You have to dispute.
Because
shit.
Biden ain't perfect, but he
He's
disputed
perfect
Trump.
in his own world. You get another person like Biden, who's gonna win? Him, the other person, or Biden? Biden's probably gonna win because he's so fucked up.
We probably should have ended this podcast like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah, we should.
Going down that rabbit hole.
I love that rabbit hole because one of the subjects that I want to talk about one of these days and religion, politics, and business, how they
Go together.
It's such a fascinating, and anybody that says
that they don't mix them.
Yeah, like let me ask you this: do you not have a customer or a relationship or friendship that doesn't differ on religion, politics, and business principles? You could say business ethics or morals or whatever. They all tie together.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to leave you guys to waiting for the next podcast, what will come out next Tuesday.